Good morning. This is Mike Uzena of Menorcan Magic Cast Nets here in St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city. And what I want to do today is we've covered so much stuff on physical making of nets over the past few years. I want to talk about something I don't think I've touched on yet, and that's longevity, net longevity. That's how long a net will last, and of course that's going to be terribly debatable. It's going to depend on how much it's used and how well it's cared for and taken care of and all such. But there's simply some that's going to, I don't care what you do to it, there's a period of time when it's just going to start deteriorating, and that being monofilament. I have here a little net that belongs to my partner, and he had taken this thing and he went over, and one of the biggest issues is, you've heard me say this time and time again, is one of the issues with monofilament nets, they don't put enough weight on them. In order to catch fish, a net has to sink. If it's slow sinking, a mullet's going to swim right out from under it. Shrimp, forget it. They just lay down on the bottom and you throw the net over them and you catch them. But mullet's another matter. But this was a shrimp net, a little small 1/4-inch mesh net. It's going to be hard for it to pick it up with a camera because it's so fine. But the issue here is when Phil got this net somewhere, and the first thing he did, he used it, and he was trying to catch some finger mullet for bait, and he was having issues with the net sinking. So what he did is he came in here in between the sinkers and he tied additional sinkers to add weight to it. So that was working really well for him. The net was sinking good and he didn't have any trouble catching his finger mullet. He likes to fish with finger mullet. But what has happened here, and he discovered this, is he went down to a place where he always goes to catch bait, and had his grandson with him, and him being unfamiliar with the area, he made a cast and got the net hung up. And it's right here at this bottom. You can see this gaping hole. You got a good picture of that, Phil?
Hold on.
You can see that hole there? I put my hand to it. But anyhow, what happened is in the process of pulling the net in, it ripped. But I got to tell you, the net's rotten, and which he discovered and I discovered this morning. He's planning on sewing this back together. I disagree with that, but that's his net. Do what he wants with it. But the net is rotten, and I'm not going to pull this. And this morning I tested it, and I just took and give it a pull, and it started ripping. The net's it's mono net, and it's rotten. It's probably 4 to 7 years old. So with that said, I'm going to just give you a little quick story about, I had a monofilament shrimp net. It was 9 foot. I had that net a good 12, 15 years, I know. And it was for shrimping. I had the webbing around the bottom that slows the net from sinking when you throw it in 20 or 30 foot of water. It really slows the net. It just floats down instead of just dropping down and starting to close. Well, I hadn't used it, and I know probably 3 or 4 years. And so I decided, well, maybe I might go out and try to shrimp out there in St. John. So I went out in the garage and I got the net down. And like I say, I pulled it out of the bucket. I saw a hole. I said, what the heck? So I got it on out, and I looked down the bottom of the bucket, and the net had physically started to just deteriorate. There was webbing laying down in the bottom of the bucket, just pieces of rotted monofilament. So that was the end of that. But I guess, and now I got to tell you something about monofilament. It's going to last you longer if you can store it in a cooler place. This net was hanging out in that garage where it may get, in the summertime on a really hot day, even with the doors open and it's got good ventilation around it, it's still going to get 110 degrees in there, I know, or more. So that was not a good ideal place to keep this stuff at the time where I had to keep it. So if you've got a mono net, my advice to you, in which most everybody's got a mono net, that is to properly take care of it, get through using it, wash it out, dry it, and then put it away, and keep it where it's not so hot, and it's going to last you a lot longer. Now, I'm going to touch on one last subject about mono nets, and that is I've been making a lot of nets here in the last few years and shipping them to anywhere from Crystal River up the west coast, all the way up into Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. The guys in Pensacola, Pensacola's another good, beautiful mullet, beautiful white sand beach over there. Pensacola, and when what they tell me, and all I can do is repeat what somebody tells me, because I'm not there, I don't know what they were doing. But these are commercial fishermen. They catch mullet, supplement their income. I call them commercial fishermen because they fish a lot. And they're buying these 10 and 12 foot mono nets, and what is happening is after 1 to 2 years they're coming apart simply from use, probably. But where these things are sewn together now, they start coming loose at the seams. They don't have enough weight on them. They complain about that. And so, I've been making, I don't make over a 10 foot net, so I've been making them these 10 foot Dacron mullet nets, and they're tickled to death with them. So I don't know if that's any kind of indication on longevity or not. So I'm going to get off monofilament. Now what I'm going to show you now is fact. I have a mullet net here made of nylon. You can see it's not bonded. It's not made out of bonded nylon. This net was made out of Memphis Net and Twine went in business in 1962. Right shortly after that, when I found out about them selling bonded material, because our local distributor here didn't sell mono anymore. I mean, didn't sell bonded material anymore. So all they had was the twisted, and that's what this is. It's not bonded in any way. Anyway, I made this net somewhere. I'm sitting here showing you a net that's, I know, over 30 years old. I made this net for my son and I, because he got into the smoked mullet kick. We would go to the beach. We would go to the beach after work, and I think he worked a half a day on Friday, because they worked 10 hours a day for us. But anyway, we would go over there, and he would drive the car, and I would go. And I'd tell him when I saw a place that I thought, there might be some mullet, and I'd get out and go. And if I saw them, I'd throw the net. If I didn't, I didn't. So I was using this net. It got used a lot. It got used a lot. I'm going to show you something about this. This is probably about a 3/4 mesh. Normally I didn't like making 3/4 mesh because your smaller mullet would gill in it. But anyway, it's been a good net. It hasn't been used. I used this net in 2014 was the last time it got used, when I did the video on the art of cast net making. I did a video that like I said, it was made in 2014. That's when the last time I used this net. Since then, it's been in this little Rubbermaid. And I'm going to show you something. If there's any of you experts out there in chemical material, we know that nylon is synthetic. We know it's made out of chemicals. We know that. Okay, this net, I know I made it out of two different materials that was available for me at the time. One of them was gold metal, which wasn't very good, and the other was Brownie. Brownie's still in business. You can still buy Brownie nylon and spools. But look at here, and since 2016, what you tell me, Phil? That's over 7 years, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's over 7 years. It hadn't been used in that period of time. It's been in this container, and look what has happened. Evenly from where I changed material, you can see from here down, which is probably 2.5 foot or so. Look how it's discolored. How that net has discolored, I couldn't begin to tell you. I can tell you this, that my grandson had taken custody of this thing. My son, because I'd made him a brand new 7-foot nylon net. I made the grandson a brand new 7-foot nylon net. But how they were using this. But as you can see, it's strong. I mean, this net for over 30 years old, I mean, you can't, I'm putting a lot of force on that. It is strong, just like it was made. And we get down to the last row here, where I put number 6, which I always put number 6 at the bottom, and it's white. It didn't discolor. It's only this section here that discolored. But as far as longevity goes, I gotta tell you, I don't care what you do, how you care for a monofilament net, it ain't gonna come close to lasting this long. I don't care what you do with a monofilament net if you never use it in 30 years and you reach down there and pull on it like I did this, it's gonna rip. It's just the nature of the material. So, with that said, I think I've pretty well covered what I wanted to cover on longevity. We're making a lot of Dacron nets now because they're tough, strong, and I can't tell you how long they last because I've only been making them probably 4 or 5 years, so it's no time frame there. But I can tell you they'll outlast a nylon, you know. And this net was taken care of now. I'm going to tell you the truth. I took care of it. When we came back from fishing on that beach, this net was washed out, dried, and put away. It was done that way for that, gosh, I guess we were having me use this thing probably 20 years. We would go over there and he was a nut on smoking fish. He'd smoke anything he'd get his hands on, chickens, it didn't matter, pork chops, you name it, he'd smoke it. I did the same thing. He got all this fishing crap from me, but anyhow, going back, one last thing, cotton. When I started making nets back in the late 1940s, early 50s, cotton was the only thing that was available. Nylon really started coming out about 52, 53. Nylon hit the market. You know, after the war years and things settled down, and nylon was made for making ladies' stockings, hose. That's what it was made for. It wasn't made for making nets or anything else. That's what originally it was made for, and it was a hit. I've told you that story. But it was, the early nylon wasn't that great, but along about 1950, 58, 59, things started to improve in material all the way around. The early monofilament, you couldn't, if you made a net, and they did it, they made panel nets, probably started in the middle 50s. And they just, I mean, you set it down, it was like a wire basket. It was so thick you couldn't do nothing with it. You couldn't put it on a reel to fish with. All it would do is backlash. But in 1959, DuPont came out with a much softer, more pliable. We know that story. I've told you that story with Serene, and that's where you're at today with mono. It's made out of, it's all synthetic material. And so, I don't know, like I said, cotton did not last. It would rot, and it would shrink. You could make a 7-foot cotton net and use it 2 or 3 times, and it'd shrink down to 6.5 feet. But and heavy, when it got wet, it was like a sponge. So, with that said, I think I've covered everything, and I hope you all are taking care of yourself with this virus issue going on. And I've get emails now and then from some of you guys that you and your family have caught it and doing well with it, got over it and everything. the best to you, and take care of yourself, and until the next time. Thank you.